Well, joining me now for more on this is independent MP Di Lee. Di, good morning to you. Labor
Good
is
morning, Holly.
escalating its war on social media. Is this being rushed, do you think? Will it work?
Look, I think absolutely. In terms of social media, we haven't got the details of that yet. But there are a lot of bills that have been rushed through the parliament, as you probably have, aware. And it really, in terms of information, the misinformation, disinformation bill, or the MAD bill, as I call it, it's really challenging. Obviously, many people in my constituency are, up in arms about that. Really, at the end of the day, I don't think any government can control the growth of social media. And that's one of the things I spoke about last week when I was in Parliament. That is really beyond our control. What can be controlled is basically our own, accessing it, our own, the government can educate the community in terms of go out there and research the information and make your own mind up about what information is there for you to access and to interpret. But I think for the government to be stepping in what I think is very much people's personal lives, I think that's quite really dangerous in terms of interfering in people's minds and how they should access information and what information they should be accessing. It's quite dangerous. We're kind of going towards uh, a society that we constantly criticize, communist China for that whole monitoring and policing of how people access information and what they do.
I mean, another layer of the pressure on social media companies is the government's proposed misinformation bill. Does this risk curtailing freedom of speech, though? There's a whole nother avenue and concern to this, I guess, is putting the responsibility onto social media companies to decide what is or isn't misinformation in Australia a slippery slope?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what I said. I said that there is a section 230 in the which the U.S. Congress passed, which enabled platforms such as all those social media giants to be not as publishers of content, but they are just a means by which people can share information, access information. And I don't think government can control that, especially Australia's us here in Australia. But what we can do is ensuring that it's up to the individuals, up to the parents to really, ensure what their children access. Now, my understanding is also there are filters that parents can access and school can access to put on to, the phone or computer for kids. But that's up to the parents. And really, governments are not the parents of these kids. It's up to the parents of the day, and it's up to the individuals to really determine what they want to access and how they want to access the information. So, the misinformation and disinformation bill. I mean, like I said, the initial stands for MAD. The MAD bill. It's really mad from my perspective. What the government's trying to push for, and they're not focusing on what's really matter at the moment for us. How Labor, how effective is Labor in addressing the things it means to people, which is the cost of living. How effective are they in tackling the rising cost of energy? How effective are they in tackling the rising cost of insurance? How
Mm.
effective are they in ensuring that people's lives are, better here in communities like Fowler and Western Sydney? People are struggling. So for me, that are the questions we have to put to the government.
People are struggling indeed. Di, we do have to sort of get things moving, but I want to, of course, get your thoughts on Donald Trump and I guess what you think a second Trump presidency will mean for Australia. And do you think Kevin Rudd can weather this storm at the moment and stay on as ambassador?
Look, I think it's really interesting. Like as an ambassador, as you have to have that skill to engage with whoever's in president or whoever's the prime minister of the day. And you have to have that's called a diplomatic service, right? You have to be a diplomat, and so I think it is concerning that why are politicians being appointed to ambassador's role, a role that's very critical to ensure that there are strong engagement. And we know that US has a strong partner we partner with the US in many ways, and I think that to have an ambassador who cannot have that diplomatic relationship with the president of the day, it is concerning. But I think the government of the day have to reassess who they appoint as ambassadors, and I'm sure we have a diplomatic corps that are trained in dealing with any governments of the day. Then we need to tap into those skill set that is required to be an ambassador or a diplomat.
And of course, we know, I mean, a lot of people have said negative things about Donald Trump previously, and he's managed to sort of look past that. I guess you can look, for example, at JD Vance and also Elon Musk as well. So a lot of people will be looking at this and see if Kevin Rudd and Donald Trump can make it up, I guess, and be friends again. We know Donald Trump's love of tariffs, and he's speaking about this. A lot of people looking to this as a concern potentially for Australia and with our main trading partner, of course, China. Do you think Anthony Albanese can fight this off?
Look, obviously the President Trump has got a mandate, a firm mandate. It is, he got elected. And I think that, for our Prime Minister, we need to ensure that we have a very professional, maintain that relationship. And whether or not, the Ambassador Kevin Rudd will be in the way, I'm not the Prime Minister, and I'm sure that he knows best the interests of Australia and Australians. So he has to make that decision on what to do with what we're hearing at the moment, with the comments, and of course with the Prime Minister's perspective as well on President Trump.
Dai Li, thank you for your time this morning.